Okay, hi, I'm Parker Miley,
I'm Tim Benjamin.
and this is the Rage Podcast, where today we are going to discuss, and I'm assuming you probably already know what
I'm
we're
sure
going
you
to
saw
discuss.
this one coming. Yeah.
Okay, this isn't going to be a shock to any of you, probably, but in the current political and news climate here in the U.S., something big happened. Really big.
Really big.
Roe v. Wade was overturned. If you didn't know that, and if you're only getting your news from the Rage Podcast, there's more things wrong than just the fact that you don't know that.
Yeah, you need to be a little more informed.
But, okay, and here's, and as always, when we decide to rage over a topic like this, we need to lay down some ground rules.
Yes.
Okay? What I don't want to have happen is someone to think, oh, yada, yada, yada. All right? Me and Tim both know and both agree abortion's bad. Completely inappropriate. Should never happen.
Yes.
Yada, yada, yada. Now, and all those people who want to get in the weeds about when an abortion's okay and all those other things, that's not what we're discussing today.
Life of the mother and rape. Yes. That's the only two times we should talk about it.
Yeah, that's the only two times you really have an exception, and every other countless number of times.
Yeah, when we're murdering for convenience. Yeah, that's not. We don't need to explain. Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where me and Tim stand. That's not what we're going to talk about today, though. No. Obviously. So if you want to get in our comment section and rip our heads off, please do. Yeah, but save it for the comment section, okay? But so what I found interesting about this whole current situation that we're in is how the president's address. I'm sure many of you have probably watched it. Did you watch the president's address?
I watched as much as I could stomach of it.
It was very weak.
Weak is a compliment, Parker, but go ahead.
And here's why I say that. I say that because obviously in the current, with the president that we have currently, he's been big on, women's rights is what he'll cover it up as. And making sure abortion's safe and legal, and they'll use all those word garbage to make it seem like abortion is the next best thing.
Reproductive safety, reproductive
all those things. That's what they
apparently we call it safety and rights when someone dies. But
So and now the president addresses the nation, and I feel like what's weird is in the state of our last president, when he would address the nation, everyone would at least at some point watch it, and they would walk away with something.
Even if they watched it to troll.
Even if they watched it to troll, it was something. But the big problem, I think, I'm seeing a lot of big problems with our nation as we go through this season
that have been brewing for a long time. Yes.
No one cares. No one cares about the leader of our nation. No one could care less about anything he has to say. It's not. It's just because you can look at the polling, you can look at the views and all these things. Yeah. No one cares what the man in charge has to say. That's new, I feel like. Yeah. That is a new...
And that's a very sad development. Again, from any side of the political aisle. That's when you don't care what the guy on top says. It doesn't matter why you don't care. The fact that you don't care, that's bad.
Because the guy on top is a person who has stood for, abortion.
We're not talking
about
Biden.
Right?
We're talking about president.
Yes, we're talking about the president. He's very adamant about how he wants abortion in the U.S. and all those things.
And look, obviously I have a lot more presidents I've dealt with than Parker has, but look, there's been many presidents down through the years who've done things I disagree with or didn't like or went in favor of or maybe didn't understand. But I think what we're seeing now with the last 2, possibly 3 presidents we've had, it's different now. It's just a complete neglecting where he'll get on and make a statement. And look, Joe Biden and I are not going to agree on abortion. But I still respect the guy's the president, but we're not going to agree. Fine. That's just not where we are. And I'm going to vote against him, based on lots of reasons, but certainly that one is not helping my opinion. But at the end of the day, though, now he's making statements that are completely partisan. And look, he ain't the only one that does that. Trump was good at that one too. But we've become so polarized now that the only people who will bother listening to him are the people who agree with him. And the people who don't agree with him, look, I even made the comment.
But that's not even true, Tim.
Yeah.
The people that agree with him don't even agree. Don't even listen to him.
That could be too.
There's just something going on where no one cares that all of our major news stations, tune in. The president's going to speak. All news stations are there, obviously, filming it, going live, whatever they're going to do, and no one watches.
Yeah. Well, and there's on a topic as controversial as abortion, or apparently as controversial as abortion, we need to hear from the people who are the movers and shakers on that one. We need to hear from the people in charge. And I feel really bad that we're in the place where we are now, because all I want now is confirmation bias. Mm-hmm. If I agree, I want to hear what I agree with. And look, I'm as guilty as anybody. You heard me say when we started this, I watched as much as I could stomach because I didn't agree with it. Look, so I'm as guilty. I'm not pointing any fingers because I'm just as bad as everybody else. But we have got to get to a place where we can listen to each other. Because other places are listening to us, mm-hmm. and other countries are following our lead. Parker and I were talking before we started filming here, and he brought up a great point that said, abortion was, I don't want to say it was a joke, but it wasn't even talked about until the United States went down that road, and then the world kind of followed us, and now millions upon millions of people are dead because of that, mm-hmm. and and they followed our lead on that. And I think that since we have stopped listening to leadership, really any leader, this isn't a Biden thing. This is across the board. We don't want to hear anybody speak with authority, or unless we agree with them. We've gotten to the point now that we can't even debate controversial issues. And I think a great example of this, and I know this goes beyond what you and I talked about, and I didn't watch any of it, but I know that it happened when they had primetime coverage of the January 6th fiasco. And nobody cared. Nobody watched it because we all knew what we were going to hear, and even the people who are fans of that side of the aisle. And again, what happened on January 6th was despicable. What those guys did to run into the Capitol. Look, I don't care where they're at politically; they were wrong. But we've become so polarized now that the people who love it. The people who hate it ignore it, and we can't talk about it at all without somebody getting mad. Whether it be abortion, January 6th. Or pick your topic. Even stuff we don't even care about, like even sports teams. We can't even talk about that anymore without somebody getting fired up and bad things happening.
We've hit the point where everyone knows what you're going to say. The arguments. Yeah. Okay, so abortion's been around for 50 years. Everyone's heard every argument we could possibly come up with. It's there. It's done. So we obviously know if someone's going to be pro-abortion, we're going to know exactly what argument they're going to bring.
Even people who disagree with Parker and I didn't tune in here and go, "Oh wow, these guys don't think abortion's good." No one was shocked to learn that.
And you obviously know, and if you're pro-abortion, you obviously know what we're going to say about why we are against abortion, right?
Yeah.
We've
heard about it.
It's a tough. Yeah, everyone knows what we don't like. So that's why we suffer from this problem of I'm not going to listen because I already know what's going to be talked about.
Yep.
And that's a problem when we have the people who are in charge and making rules and all these things, when they get to the point where I'm not going to listen because I already know what they're going to say. And I think that's where a lot of us are at on a lot of situations, not just abortion, but we're all kind of know what argument is going to be made.
Yeah, and what that does, it further insulates my position. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to listen to you. I already disagree. And that further insulates my position. Again, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of stuff I'm pretty close-minded on. I admit it, So this is definitely the pot calling the kettle black here. We Parker and I identify that.
So what we're reaping now is we kind of got a court system now that leans conservative on this viewpoint.
The Supreme Court, yeah.
The Supreme Court, yes. Yeah, I'm talking about the nation here. So the Supreme Court, obviously, we got people on there who disapprove of abortion, all right? And these are very intellectual people here, all right? This is the top dogs of law, of reasoning. This is their life here.
And their job is to take situations like the recent court case that names escapes me, but whatever it was that was making them reconsider Roe versus Wade.
The Mississippi, right?
Yeah, Mississippi versus. Anyways, you all know what it is. It's out there, and what they're doing is they're considering that, and their job then is to interpret: is this lawful? Is this according to the Constitution and our legal documentation? Is this lawful? And what they did is they went back and had a chance to say, I know that Roe versus Wade has been, a federally mandated right to abortion has been the way it's been for 50 years. And the court went back and looked at it and said, we think this is actually a state issue, which honestly is correct because we didn't elect any of the Supreme Court nominees. They shouldn't be making those kind of decisions. We do elect our political leaders. So look, if Ohio decides to go in a way that you don't agree on abortion, then you need to start voting people out. Go vote. And that's what the democratic system is supposed to do.
But here's the thing also. You had 50 years, all right? This could have, and everyone wants to make it see and uses this term, it's a constitutional right. That's what I've been hearing a lot. Abortion is a constitutional right. Technically, you're incorrect. You're incorrect, actually. If the Supreme Court has anything to justify it not being lawful according to the Constitution, it's not a constitutional right. Unless it was to go through Congress and be approved and deemed law, which you, again, had 50 years to do that. It just never happened.
Because it would not be supported.
Because it wouldn't be supported.
The American people would not do it.
It wasn't going to happen. So no, it's not a constitutional right. You can't say those things, all right? But these are all just parts of a problem that is of a larger focus here. And as me and Tim mentioned, we were having a little discussion before we got on here. We were talking about how once the Supreme Court made their decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, the whole world was shocked, and you then start to hear a response from a lot of global leaders, all right? You heard Boris Johnson and several other of those European countries that feel like they have a say on the global scale.
They do have a say, but we're not required to care. Go ahead.
Not required to care. And as an American, as a proud American, I don't listen to their opinions. But
we listen to them, but and we'll take them in stride, and we'll have conversations, but your opinions are your opinions, and we're happy to agree to disagree.
I don't live there, not my problem, okay? But they all wanted to make these claims that, oh my gosh, the U.S. is going back into the Stone Age, we should be ashamed, that, they should be ashamed of themselves, and I can't believe they're doing this and all this nonsense. But here's what the big problem is there. Go back 50 years when the U.S. took on the Supreme Court case of Roe v. Wade and we deemed it lawful to have abortions carried out in the U.S. That is when everyone else followed with us. We set the pace. Yeah, we set the pace and we led the way for abortions to be legal pretty much all around in majority of the countries in the world. I mean, there's tons where abortions are legal now.
And a lot of these countries that are criticizing us have more restrictive abortion laws today than we have.
Yeah, and you can go, again, there's so many weeds on these topics, it's hard to even really talk about it. But a matter of, the whole world now deems the U.S. as, oh my gosh, how awful, when 50 years ago
it was, oh my gosh, how awful.
Yeah, oh my gosh, how awful. And now within that time, we were praised, now we're not. It's just the way the world works, which is funny when you really think about it. 50 years ago, or however many years ago, when Roe v. Wade came into effect, everyone looked and was like, oh my gosh, they're going to kill babies. They had the stance that everyone else had, right? That was the world. They were like, oh my goodness, you're going to allow this. And now you go to current day and they're like, oh my gosh, you're taking away abortion. What about all these other things and yada yada, reproductive rights and safety and blah, 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 and all those other things. I think what's happening is the U.S. right now, in a conservative movement of the ProLife Movement, which has been going on for a long time.
As long as Roe versus Wade has existed.
Finally gained traction. Finally gained the pistons are moving incredibly fast forward now. I mean, obviously with this overturning and yada, 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 now we're going to have battles in states, and we live in Ohio. We're going to making sure, if we're, pro-life, that Ohio becomes pro-life, you go vote, and yada, yada, yada. All those things come into effect. But a matter of carrying out this movement, the pro-life movement is now underway, and now we have more power than we ever had before, right? Because, again, how Tim mentioned,
which is what democracy is supposed to do.
Exactly. Over especially situations like this that are so controversial.
Controversial things, you have to be able to vote on them. You have to be able to vote your conscience, and without that, it's not a democracy; it's a dictatorship. And so for the Supreme Court to say, basically what they said was we did not, nor have we ever had the authority to make a proclamation like this. So we're going to put it in its rightful place, and that is in the hands of the voters. That is exactly what they did. So, and you all know what's going to happen. I mean, some states are going to go more radical abortion, and other states are going to go more restrictive, of course, because that's the will of the people. That's democracy. It's messy, it's awful, it's terrible, but the one thing that kills a democracy is when people stop listening to each other. We have to be able to have conversation. We have to be able to say, I don't agree with your stance on abortion. I don't agree with your stance on whatever it is, but we're still Americans together. And as soon as we can't do that, we really are fragmented. I mean, we've gone the way of so many very great organizations in the history of our world, including the United Methodist Church, where we've come down to the point to say, all right, here's an issue that we not only don't agree on, but we can't even be in the presence of the other person because we just feel that strongly about it. And then the organization fractures and becomes much less than what it was. Mm-hmm. And that's my fear. That's what Parker and I are kind of getting to today, is our great fear of what this fragmentation is going to do. If we just can't listen to each other. Yes, voters should be able to vote in or vote out whatever their whims are, or whatever they're educated, whatever their faith and morals and faith in God and all that stuff, whatever that leads them to, they must vote that, or it's not a democracy. There has to be a voice. But when we just allow this to be something to say, all right, we're just going to take our ball and go home, or we're not going to listen to each other, or we're going to think you're a bunch of uneducated morons who can't figure out, again, and both sides are saying that about the other side, we get to the place where maybe we think we'd be better off without each other. And I do not agree with that. And I'm afraid that's where we're heading as a country and as organizations and as individuals and as families and churches and people. We just have decided that I can't tolerate anything that's contrary to anything I may think, because I'm the one that's always right. And my neighbor or the guy sitting next to me, who cares? Who cares what he thinks? If I don't like what Parker has to say, I just won't do the Rage Podcast anymore. And then the Rage Podcast goes away. And I'm afraid of how many things are going to go away if we continue with that attitude. We continue this inability to listen, inability to show grace, inability to reach across disagreements. It makes me sad as to where we're going, because how can you have anything united when we just can't agree to disagree, or everything becomes an issue that says this issue is more important than our relationship, and that everything falls apart after that, and that's the danger we're running into. United Methodist Church is about to find that out, and I hate to say that. I don't want to go back to the split, because I know that's not what we're talking about, but we're about to find that very issue out. So, yeah, the term united has kind of gone away. Yeah, I mean, and we brought ourselves there. Yeah. Well, think about in our world today. We've been talking about a pretty controversial issue here in Roe versus Wade and abortion. Can you think of a single issue that we're all in agreement on? That we think is a great patriotism? No, that's not one. What about protecting children? I'm having a hard time with that one with these drag queen story hours and things. I'm sorry, that's not one. How about bringing up the next generation to be healthy and wise? No, we're pretty much carving genitals off of kids. That's not a good thing. Religion, please. So there's so many things that used to be so uniting between us. Now, even if we didn't agree on everything, there were things that we saw as being the kind of adhesive between us that we don't recognize anymore. I mean, look at it though, and I think this is what with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, that's what we have the opportunity to go back to kind of where we were originally. All right, so you have the United States, you have 50 of us, you have, obviously you're more conservative, you're more liberals, but we all come together as one united group of people to have this, hierarchy of a government and all these other things that produce good and beneficial things, and making sure, obviously, from roadways to travel to transportation to exports, imports, making, whatever it all is, all right? Mm-hmm. You need kind of that overseer that we have as our one government. However, Ohio is not the same as Indiana. Indiana is not the same as Illinois and all those other places. Yet, we still have one thing that brings us all together, and that is whether it could possibly be patriotism or whatever it is. Obviously, one nation, United States. We are. You're an individual, but you got to realize you're a part of a larger group. Same thing goes for humanity. Not every human, majority, no. Every human's a different individual. There's no one that's exactly the same. And thanks be to God for that. But we don't celebrate that. We think it's a negative thing. But do realize that is what makes up all of humankind is humans that are different people. So I think we kind of meandered through some of these topics, but I think this is good to say. Yeah. Remember the importance of unity and the idea of being able to agree to disagree and to be able to compromise and those kind of things, because at the end of the day, we're so much stronger together than we're ever going to be apart. And these fractioning issues that we have, they're just Satan's tools. And I'm not talking Satan's tools used by the other side that I despise. I'm talking about Satan's tools just to put impediments between us. and to drive wedges and to put questions and doubts and these things in people's minds to the point that there is no unity anymore. There is no togetherness. And you know this. This is not news. Some of the most beneficial and advantageous and really great experiences that we have are when we work together. It used to be we talked about sports in that way, about pulling together to go toward a goal. If we don't have a goal to go toward together, or something that we're all trying to achieve together, something out there that's a uniting principle, then what are we doing? So we encourage all of you, and I know that many of you who are watching us certainly are folks who are of much the same ilk as Parker and I, but we want to encourage you to realize the importance of working together, the importance of having sisters and brothers in Christ, I guess, in our context, and how valuable those connections are, because those are what give meaning to life. And when we allow, some peripheral issues become the main issue and allow those things to divide us, understand we're losing more than just that issue. There's a lot of connection, a lot of relationship that just go right on out the window with it. And here's a good analogy for what we're talking about. I hope we're not losing the baby and the bathwater at the same time. I think that's part of what we're concerned about here. So keep listening. And you know what? I'm looking at my own. Parker and I are looking at our own faces on the screen here. I'm looking at myself saying, I keep listening, because there are some arguments out there that I don't wish to hear. I can't say I'll never be talked into it, because never is a big word, but I don't see any way I'm going to get talked into or out of some of these things. And but at the same time, people who hold these views are still my teammates, not my enemy. And somewhere in there, we got to find common ground. So. All right. Well, having covered all this ground today, we hope you feel some togetherness with us, if nothing else, and we appreciate you tuning in and being a part of our conversations and arguments as we rage about different topics. And we are, at the end of the day, I personally am very glad that Roe versus Wade was overturned, and this will go back to the voters. And I hope that we'll be able to celebrate what that's going to mean to babies being born and people existing 20 years from now that otherwise may not have. I see that as a great value, and I appreciate the fact that we now have the chance to be a part of that, and I just pray for the safety of babies, because good grief, if we can't agree on protecting children, I don't know. That's a tough one for me. So all right, you guys will have a great day. Go out there, and here's our challenge to you. Go listen to somebody you don't agree with, and don't try to talk them into your side. I double dog dare you to try that one. And if you were able to follow along the last 23 minutes, you deserve some form of medal. Yes, so. Thumbs up from us. Yeah. So, all right, guys, have a great day, and go enjoy the weather. At least we can all agree it's nice outside. That's true.